That's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened?
America is football. Football
America
is
is football. Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass on the moment in time. I don't give a damn. Oh my God.
No!
You love this.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. As you can see by the title, I'm super pumped about this episode because I like to do this every single offseason. The NFL releases the opponents. We do not know when the games are going to be played, but we have an idea about certain ones. I'll get to it a little bit later, but just looking at the opponents post NFL draft, I think it was only right that we did our favorite top 10 games. And by the way, I couldn't limit it to 10, so it did go a little bit longer. But these are, in my opinion, the best games of the 2024 season. What makes a game the best game? I think there's a couple things. One, any matchup that has a history. Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chiefs and the 49ers and the Lions because they were in the NFC Championship. But that's not a history. That's more of a revenge, which is the other thing that makes an NFL game great. One of the players on the team or the team in whole is trying to get revenge on the other team. That's going to be my first game is an example of that. And that's the Broncos and Steelers. And like I was saying, you don't really know when these games are going to happen, but you can kind of anticipate a game like this would happen earlier in the season because Russell Wilson might not be a Steeler for the entire season. And trust me when I say the schedule writers take that kind of stuff into consideration. How do we get the most juice, meaning the most views, the most revenue out of this football game? And most people would agree, well, you got to be able to be certain that Russell Wilson's going to be playing in that game. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my very first game, the best games of the 2024 season, the Broncos and Steelers. The Broncos and Steelers. Now, the NFL just did a similar article, and this game didn't even make it into the top 10. I'm not really sure why. To me, it's a great game. I expect this game to happen early in the season in case Justin Fields outperforms, kind of like when the Patriots wanted to make sure that Tom Brady was healthy when he took Tampa Bay Bucks to Foxborough to play the Patriots. These type of games tend to happen early in the season. When Russell Wilson was traded to Denver, it was week 1 that he played the Seahawks. With everything that unfolded with Sean Payton and, kicking Russ out, and now he's got his new guy, Bo Nix, it just makes sense to me that it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers that are going to be coming into Denver. This is a home game for the Broncos. Russell Wilson will return to Denver seeking revenge. And this has got to be one of your top games of the year as well. You got a quarterback that was kind of on his way to a Hall of Fame career and then just literally just shit the bed for 2 years, and we all wondered, where did this guy come from? Where's Russ? Is Pete Carroll the greatest coach ever? Does he need a great defense? Does he need a running game? Was Pete Carroll hiding his flaws? And Nathaniel Hackett was absolutely the opposite. We'll get to him later. But Russell Wilson, if he ends his career today, you could make a real argument that he should be a Hall of Famer. Would he be considered among football fans as a Hall of Fame quarterback? I don't think he's done enough, and you don't want to end your career on a bad note. There's a lot riding on the shoulders of Russell Wilson in this 1 year with the Steelers. If it doesn't go well, Russell Wilson's done. So I think this game is going to be great. I think it's going to happen early in the season. And my last Bronco game that's on this list is going to be the Broncos and Jets. We know about Nathaniel Hackett, and then Sean Payton gets hired and then says that this was the worst coaching job ever. The things that they had them doing, marching around for the press and the lack of focus. They literally played last year, but Aaron Rodgers wasn't there. And if you remember, Aaron Rodgers was a pivot point for the Broncos because apparently they hired Nathaniel Hackett. They said it wasn't true, but most people agree around the Broncos that they hired Nathaniel Hackett so that they could reel Aaron Rodgers in from Green Bay. And then what happened? Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers decide to stick it out that year, and the Broncos say Russell Wilson was always our plan A. But this has been a really big kind of turning point, fork in the road, if you will, for the Broncos. Now they dealt with Russell Wilson. They just finally gave their last pick away in that trade. The assets, the money, the cap hell, the $240 million, the guaranteed money. I mean, this was a terrible thing. Then the Jets come in and beat the Broncos. And we said, man, this has got to be rock bottom. There's no way it could get any worse. Well, now we have somewhat of a real rematch, but with the guy himself, Aaron Rodgers, who is responsible for the purgatory that Denver Bronco fans have been feeling that they are living in. So this game is going to be great. I mean, you remember Aaron Rodgers, keep my coach's name out of your mouth. And there's going to be a lot of egos on the line in this game. And that is another reason that I have this as a best game, right? High ego, revenge, and just rich history. Okay. All right. Moving past the Broncos, because as you can see, I am a huge Denver Broncos fan, and I don't want you guys to, I don't want to lose you guys here. I got to go with the history here. I got to go with the history. I told you, I gave you a revenge game, Russell Wilson. I gave you an ego game, Broncos Jets. Now here's a history game. The Green Bay Packers have owned this rivalry for several decades. And when Aaron Rodgers became a New York Jet, the Chicago Bears, who had just brought in DJ Moore and just made these amazing moves, said, this is finally our chance to get on top. And then all of a sudden, Jordan Love came out and looked like Aaron Rodgers in Aaron Rodgers' first season. What happened Aaron Rodgers' second season as a full-time starter? They won the Super Bowl. A lot of people would not be shocked if Green Bay, the way they played at the late point in that season and how they played in the playoffs, destroying the Dallas Cowboys on the road, many people would not be shocked if the Packers represented the NFC in the Super Bowl next year. Now, with that said, they're still not the favorite, probably not even top three. You could go, probably even the Eagles ahead of them. But the point is the Packers are not supposed to be a team that the Bears are going to just walk all over. They're supposed to be one of the more competitive teams in the NFC. But the Bears just drafted Caleb Williams. They started winning at the end of their season. Montez Sweat, acquiring him late last season, was a very good thing for the Bears, where they started playing good defense and winning their football games. But they decided to let their quarterback go in Justin Fields. He's with the Steelers now, and really turn this page and get one of the highest just hype quarterbacks in recent memory in Caleb Williams, and then take the 9th pick and draft Rome Odunze. So you take those two players, and the Bears, they got a new stadium that's being built in Chicago. Like, there is a real chapter being turned here for the Chicago Bears. And what that book is going to, how that book is going to be written is yet to be seen or known, right? History has to play itself out. But it's just a little bit enticing to wonder, does this new chapter include beating the Packers and being an NFC North champion? Or does somehow, some way, it won't matter what the Bears do, the Packers will always have their number? Because if the Bears don't beat the Packers, if they get swept 0-2 this year, it's going to feel, as a Bear fan, just, could you imagine how demoralizing? It's like, what do we have to do? We got the best quarterback. We got the best wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver. We have all the weapons. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, you bring in Keenan Allen. You got a team. When Cole Kmet, you got a team together, and you still can't get it done. It would really make Packer fans feel like, you know what? It's like our little brother. It doesn't matter how big he gets. We'll always win the fight in the battle up here. We're in their head. Can the Bears' new book have beating the Packers written in it? I'm excited for that game. I expect that week 1. I expect that game week 1. I don't think that we're going to have to wait long for Packers-Bears. We normally don't. I wouldn't see any reason for the schedule holders to withhold that game from us with how exciting it is right off the bat. Going into my 4th game, okay? Don't have to think hard about this one. The 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a Super Bowl rematch. This is going to be an amazing game. Quite frankly, you can make an entire list of top 10 Patrick Mahomes games, and that would be perfectly cool with me. But this game that he played last year, the Super Bowl, really showed us all that this Kansas City Chiefs offense was not what it was. It's not why they won the Super Bowl. It was their defense, okay? And now they upgrade the receiver room with Marquise Brown, and then they trade up with the Buffalo Bills to get Xavier Worthy at 28 overall, the fastest player ever in the history. So those blazing speed additions will make the matchup against the Niners more enticing. Second round pick Kingsley could win the left tackle gig and be tasked with slowing the 49ers' Nick Bosa. That could be really fun, having here you go. Welcome to the NFL. Go stop Nick Bosa. 3 picks after KC got Xavier Worthy. The 49ers, though, drafted Ricky Pearsall. And I love the 49ers draft. I know that they got a D grade in some places. I thought the 49ers had one of the best drafts this year. Malik Mustafa, like, if you don't like Malik Mustafa, you just don't know who he is. It's simple as that. He made the freak list at like number 29. He's a 1,200-pound lifter that runs 21 miles an hour. Absolutely incredible athlete. The 49ers also drafted one of my favorite running backs in Isaac Guernardo, right? The guy ran an absolute freak kind of 40-yard dash speed. I think it was a 4.27, maybe a 4.2. It was fast, okay? Anyway, that's another player that I think is going to be really well. That's my Devon Achane or Achane, whatever you prefer. That's what I think he's going to bring. So when I looked at the 49ers, because, doing this podcast, I do my homework on these players too. And I'm not an expert by any means, but I don't know what makes you an expert. I've been watching this sport, my whole entire life without fail. I played the game, in high school. I don't feel like there's a ton I don't understand. I mean, if you really get deep into the X's and O's, I'm sure my high school level didn't reach that point, but just watching film, I can get a really good kind of feel for what a player is doing well, what I don't like. For instance, you can tell when a big receiver doesn't high point the ball. You can tell when they play passively, like they don't know how to use their body. They have the physicality, but they don't know how to use it. Or a player that's relying solely on speed, but doesn't have great route running. Those things you can see on film. And the 49ers players, I'm not even kidding when I say even in the 5th, 6th round, I was circling these players like, this guy, I love this guy, love this guy, love this guy. And the 49ers, like, to add all of those weapons, because I consider these people weapons that are going to see the field early. And, you're throwing them on the field with Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brock Purdy. I mean, this is going to be one of the most explosive teams in the NFL in the 49ers. And how much will Kansas City miss L'Jarius Sneed during this process? This is going to be really fun to watch, and I could see why some people might have this game on their list. Next up, all right, and I believe this one wasn't written in the article, but it was just one that I was really excited about, but it was the Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans. I made it the thumbnail of this video. Stefon Diggs facing off the Bills. It's going to be an amazing thing to watch. Stefon Diggs, big ego. He's going to want to ball out in that game. The Houston Texans, if you look at my Twitter bio on NFL with Kyle, you'll see that it says something about the Texans in there. Go take a look. It might have something to do with the Super Bowl next year. I believe that the Texans are ready. I think that they could make a huge jump and that they could actually get to the big game. They had another good draft as well. Let me pull up the Texans draft class really quick. So they got Kamari Lassiter. That's going to be good. Their passing defense was ranked 31st before they brought in DeMeco Ryans. And then last year they were 16th. So he was able to coach him, to about middle. Very similar to Sean Payton with Russell Wilson. Worst offense in the league. Get Nathaniel Hackett out, bring in good coaching, and you get to middle. But that's about as good as it can be without bringing more talent, right? There was a talent deficiency, and they are able to snag one of the top corners in this year's draft. Then they get Blake Fisher on the offensive line. Kalen Bullock, one of my favorite safeties in the draft. Cade Stover, to not only play with Dalton Schultz, but to learn from Dalton Schultz and potentially have them both on the field at the same time, kind of like Buffalo with Knox and Kincaid. I loved the kind of draft the Texans have. I think they're ready, but Buffalo's always going to be that team. The Bills are in the middle of a remake, and it doesn't really feel like it. Buffalo's going to want to show that it's moved on from Stefon Diggs without missing a beat. They're not going to want to have an offense that looks like it's missing Stefon Diggs. Are you kidding me? The Diggs storyline is going to be the headliner, but this matchup to me is about more than just one player. The Bills are in the middle of a rebuild or remake, whatever you want to call it. Can they go through these type of changes, like their defensive coordinator, who's calling the plays, losing Stefon Diggs? Can they go through all these changes without losing a step? And can Josh Allen run through defenses like he did down the stretch in the postseason? And how good is Keon Coleman going to be for Buffalo? Is he going to be able to fill that role? Are the Texans able to take the next step against an AFC heavyweight team like the Texans? This matchup, whenever it happens, I suspect this game happens later in the season in December, but whenever it does happen, it does feel like this matchup is going to tell us plenty about where each team is at in its respective journey in 2024. And that's why this game makes my list. You got the Buffalo Bills at the Houston Texans. Next up, and this one is another game that has to do with revenge. All right. This is my third revenge game. I did Russell Wilson coming to Denver. Just did Diggs going to Houston. And now we're going to do Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta, only to go back to Minnesota to play the Minnesota Vikings. This was a borderline matchup for me. Then the draft passed and both teams became more interesting. Everyone's been trying to rationalize the decision of the Falcons drafting Michael Penix Jr. at number 8 overall, but some people are really agreeing with it. Some people don't see it. I mean, they're the first team in history to bring in a 5-time Pro Bowl or a 4-time Pro Bowl and then draft a quarterback in the same offseason. So if it feels like uncharted territory, it kind of is. That's why it was so weird. But does weird make it bad? I mean, it depends how you feel about Michael Penix Jr. And the fact that he's 24 years old and he's not going to see the field till he's 28. No, that's not a great idea. And then you got to give him 2 years. By the time he proves that he's the guy, this guy's, 30 years old, which nothing against 30-year-old. I'm turning 30 this year, but relative to the average age of a quarterback that you draft, that you're looking to start, that is old. So is Kirk Cousins going to be looking over his shoulder the entire time? Is he going to help the quarterback that was drafted? Unlike Ryan Tannehill, who told Will Levis that, it's not his job to teach him, or how Brett Favre teached Aaron Rodgers, or lack thereof. How's that, whole situation going to go? Does the Minnesota Viking, Kirk Cousins, does he regret not staying with the Minnesota Vikings after the way Atlanta handled it? Because his agent put out right away how upset that Kirk Cousins was, how surprised he was, all of that stuff. I mean, this is a guy that's like, hey, we're about to load up for a Super Bowl and you're drafting my replacement. Like, I'm getting mixed signals here. And this is going to be interesting. So how does Kirk look like after his injury? Is he going to be able to overcome that? With Cousins gone, the Vikings pushed their chips into J.J. McCarthy, who you might think his basket was already full with the expectations. The fact that he didn't do much in college, but yet he was ranked as one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. We heard maybe he would go 2 to New England. I mean, 3 to New England. We heard a lot of weird stuff. And it was the Vikings that ultimately make that move. And he's supposed to take over for the Minnesota Vikings. There's a lot of weirdness going on in this game. Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Kirk Cousins facing his old team. I think there's no doubt that J.J. McCarthy landed in an ideal spot. He's got a great play caller in Kevin O'Connell. He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got Jordan Addison. I mean, he's got a pretty solid team around him. You got Brian Flores calling the defense. I expect the Vikings to be, just like last year, one of the top blitzing teams in the NFL. That's going to help him, in practice and stuff like that. So McCarthy is probably happy that the Falcons took Penix, so he doesn't have to face whatever pass rusher they might have drafted instead. And ideally, you would think that they would have drafted Alu out of UCLA. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but Michael Penix. Okay, so that game was borderline on here, but with the revenge, it had to be said. We got a comment in the chat. We got Bill checking in from Palm Springs. Knicks to the second round. F everything Philly. Saquon was at the game for the Sixers, but Tiki showed up for our side and we took it. Hell yeah. Love it, Bill. Bill is in Palm Springs. He is also an expert in German engineering. I'm glad that you're doing well, Bill. Thanks for checking in. And I really hope that you enjoy your time in Palm Springs. After the Falcons and the Vikings, we go to a game that you might not think deserves to be here, but personally, I like it. It's the Eagles and the Packers, okay? Last time these two teams met, it was 2022. Now, this didn't make the article, and I think, okay, the writer of this article, there's no way he, could know everything. And sometimes you just forget about something small, like this little detail I'm going to give you. And I will never forget this detail because it really turned into why I was so high on Jordan Love last year in the offseason and why I felt like this would work out for the Packers. And that's because in that game, 40-33 in 2022, Aaron Rodgers had to leave at the end of the first half because he hurt his rib, I believe. He got hit in the rib. The Packers were down in that game multiple possessions, and Jordan Love came into the game and started slinging the football. Touchdown. I mean, he looked amazing. And everybody was like, holy crap, this reminded everybody of when Aaron Rodgers came in for Brett Favre. And then the offseason came around, and I said, look, Aaron Rodgers went to the dark room. but there's no way that the Packers can unsee what they saw in Jordan Love. And they decide, hey, we want to see, we want an encore of what we saw in that Eagles game. And what did he do? He led his team to almost the NFC Championship game. Should have done it, but ended up kind of choking at the end of that game. But Love will take that experience. I expect them to be better. Like I said, the Packers have everything that you really need to be able to make a push to represent the NFC. They don't feel like a team that's not ready to compete at that level. Now the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, and then last year they're just not the same team. Jalen Hurts was dealing with injuries for most of the year, and you could tell when you were watching the Eagles play that something just didn't look right. The Eagles, the year they went to the Super Bowl, were also first in negative plays defensively. Last year, they were 31st in negative plays, so they weren't getting that same pressure. Can Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith step up and become those players that can get those negative plays? The Eagles obviously just had a really great draft that we just talked about on our last episode, but just as a refresher, they were able to get Ainias Smith, so they get a receiver weapon. They get Jeremiah Trotter, a linebacker, a really good linebacker in the draft. Then what my favorite picks were before the 5th round, which is where we are right now. I just wanted to start with the 5th round because Ainias Smith and Jeremiah Trotter in the 5th round was an absolute they crushed it, okay? If that was in the 2nd and 3rd round, nobody would bat an eye, but they did it in the 5th round. Well, what did they do in the 1st round? They got Quinion Mitchell, arguably the best corner in this year's draft. What did they do in the 2nd? Wait, what was Quinion Mitchell doing at 22? What was he doing available at 22? Well, they went offense the whole entire draft. So what did they do at this 40th pick in the 2nd round? They grabbed the 2nd best corner in the draft in Cooper DeJean. Okay, so you got Cooper DeJean in the nickel, Quinion Mitchell on the outside, Christian Gardner-Johnson probably in the safety because he's played safety. Point being is that the Eagles reloaded. Like it was like, yeah, they weren't what they were the year before, but the Eagles had the kind of draft where they could be an NFC favorite to go to the Super Bowl, and it wouldn't look crazy at all. They also added Will Shipley. I mean, these are all players. Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. Like Trevor Keegan is the only player I'm not sure about, right? And he's an what is he? An inside linebacker out of Michigan? He's an interior offensive lineman. Probably not seeing the field this year. This is a depth piece anyway. But Ainias Smith, Jeremiah Trotter, Will Shipley, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell. When I look at, and don't forget Jalix Hunt, they added an edge out of Houston Christian, one of the top edges. When you have a draft where 8 of your 9 players are going to see the field, it's a lot more meaningful for trying to measure how much better a team will be one year to the next than somebody that drafts a lot of depth pieces, right? This is the kind of picks that make the Eagles immediately better. And so Jordan Love being running a team that, like, I'll just call it what it is. This is an NFC who is who for us to know. Are the Packers that team or the Eagles that team? I expect this to be high scoring. I expect this to be a shootout. This is a measuring stick game for both teams. And for Jordan Love, he gets a chance to take his team on a Super Bowl run. And the only reason perhaps that he's had this opportunity is because it all started against the Eagles when Aaron Rodgers got hurt to begin with in 2022. Bill said, found a bottle of Blanton's at the local liquor store. Of course, I had to buy it, paid a bit of a premium for it, but it's okay. Dude, my dad collects all of the Blantons, they got the pirate ship on them, the cool corks. He's a huge fan, so dude, enjoy that. It's some good shit. He said we're getting a 4th next year for McKinley going to the Packers. Just keeping you up on the Giants news. Okay, so 4th round pick for McKinley. Okay. So you're getting one because McKinney went to the Packers. All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to draft somebody good with that. If it's anything like this year, the 4th round pick will be like a 2nd or a 3rd. Next up, we have a game that I put on here just because we haven't seen it in a while. And if I had any team on twice in a row, I tried to put it twice in a row, like Broncos, Steelers, Broncos, Jets, Packers, Bears. And I think I had one more Bears game. Oh, no, that was an honorable mention. My last Eagles game that's on this list is actually there's one more. The Ravens and Eagles. And the reason that this is on the list is because the last time we've seen these two teams meet up was in 2016. Okay. The Ravens and the Eagles, to me, feel almost like a image of each other, just in different conferences. You got two teams that are capable of going to the Super Bowl that choked in the playoffs, right? That's how it looks. The Ravens couldn't do anything against the Chiefs, and the Eagles couldn't do anything against Tampa Bay. Both teams looking to get back to where they were, and most likely both teams will get back to where they were. But I think this game will be one of the telling signs to which one of these two teams is actually going to perform better in the postseason. And I think we'll get a quick shot of that in the regular season when the Ravens and Eagles play. I'm excited for that game. Like I said, that game I just put on here because we haven't seen it in a very long time. My next game is one I'm actually a lot more pumped about. All right. And you could probably guess why. The Baltimore Ravens going to LA to take on the Los Angeles Chargers. Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh. I love it. I mean, what else do you need to say? Jim Harbaugh's return to the NFL provides a brotherly matchup right off the bat in his first season. We thought, maybe we'll have to wait for that. No. John Harbaugh brings Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and a reimagined defense across the continent to face against Justin Herbert and the reworked Chargers receiver corps. Jim is 0-2 versus his older brother, including the Super Bowl, which was one of the Illuminati conspiracy Super Bowls when the halftime show and it went blackout and whatever happened, I don't know. But that was the last time these two brothers played each other in the NFL or anywhere for that matter. Not only will Jim be attempting to finally beat his brother, but he'll also be doing so with several of John's former assistants and players, including offensive coordinator Greg Roman and defensive coordinator Jesse Mintner. LA also swiped former running back Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins in free agency. So the familiar nature of the clubs offers an enticing matchup of power on power. And count me in anytime we see Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert take the field to play each other. Love this matchup. I mean, don't have to say much more about it. It's just going to be a lot of fun, and it is exciting to see, like, okay, Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. He's the first coach to win a national championship and then leave college football. But he's chasing a Super Bowl ring, and so is his brother. His brother's got one, but both of these two coaches and both of these programs are probably in the right direction because these are just two great coaches. So I'm excited to see this game. How good are the Chargers going to be? How quick are the Chargers going to be good with Jim Harbaugh? Or is there going to be a little bit of a learning curve as he gets back into the NFL? Is there going to be a talent deficiency on the team? Or are the Chargers going to overcome those things with great coaching? A lot of answers, a lot of questions will be answered after that game. And Crafty said, remember when their Super Bowl clash ended with Jim crying like a little bit? I actually don't. I didn't know Jim cried. Not totally shocked, but I did not know that Jim cried. All right, next up we have the 49ers and the Dolphins. Why do I have the 49ers and the Dolphins? Because Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan, okay? And this is kind of like the Packers-Eagles game where there's a meaning behind it that goes beyond the coach kind of relationship on the other side, or I'll just say it. The 49ers and Dolphins played 2 years ago. I believe it was week 12. I should have written it down. I believe it was week 12. I feel really, I'm 90% sure it was week 12. Jimmy Garoppolo goes down with an injury. Jimmy Garoppolo's only in the game because Trey Lance went down with an injury, which means Brock Purdy entered the game and took over for an injured Jimmy Garoppolo, and the rest is history. We know what happened after that. So, is this game exciting or what? Because the 49ers are playing the Dolphins with Brock Purdy as their starting quarterback. And anytime, I mean, this reminds me of all the Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick kind of matchups. Can the student beat the teacher? Can the Dolphins come on top? The 49ers ended up winning that game, even with, losing Jimmy Garoppolo. What is this game going to be? How good are the Dolphins going to be? Are they going to be a team that just puts up a bunch of stats and just can't get it done? Is Tua Tagovailoa the Russell Westbrook of the NFL? I mean, or are the 49ers going to be able to continue to dominate the way they have the last couple of years? This is exciting football anytime the 49ers and Dolphins play, anytime anybody from the Mike McDaniel tree gets their opportunity to take out the big dog. You got to circle that game. So I'm excited for that one. And then you add in the fact that Brock Purdy got his start versus the Dolphins. It's just exciting. Here is my game that might surprise you. Okay, it's the Baltimore Ravens versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. I always do. I leave a comment up way too long. Sorry, guys. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers are going to be at home. This is one of those games that I circled because this reminds me of the old school type of matchups that we used to see. So provided he's a starter at the time of this game, Russell Wilson's return to Denver, as we talked about earlier, is going to get a ton of attention. But when you're talking about pure watchability, his introduction to the AFC North rivalry in the first of the Steelers and Ravens annual showdowns offers a much higher rate of return. And keep in mind that if Russell Wilson actually goes into a system like Mike Tomlin is kind of similar to Pete Carroll, where they're defensive minds, okay, what do we got to do? Russell Wilson's 31st in time to throw the ball. He's first in, sacks. He's last in time to throw the ball. Let's draft an offensive line and another offensive line and another offensive line. Let's just build a wall for Russell Wilson. Now, Nathaniel Hackett wanted weapons and wanted Russ to be somebody he's not. Sean Payton tried to work with Russ, but ultimately was like, this guy can't do what I need him to do. I've bent as far as I can bend without breaking. And now maybe Mike Tomlin will be able to unlock what Pete Carroll unlocked. And if he does, then Russell Wilson may be able to end his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been open about not wanting to go and, bouncing around team to team to team. I think he could be a guy that embraces the Steeler way. But this is the introduction. Okay, Russell Wilson, this is what it's like. You want to know what it's like to be in the AFC North? Here's the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, both teams have gone through a bit of a metamorphosis after flaming out last season. The new quarterback duo is Wilson and Fields. That's going to be one of the top storylines this whole offseason is who's actually going to start, who's going to wind up as QB1, and who gives the Steelers more upside than they had last season with Kenny Pickett. The Pittsburgh Steelers added beef on the offensive line, which is what we were talking about. Now, King Henry, the Tennessee Titans, okay? They let him go to the Ravens, and all offseason we hear Derrick Henry go, the Ravens were my number one choice. Okay. Now that Derrick Henry is going to be pounding the rock for the Baltimore Ravens alongside Lamar Jackson, who can run on his own right, we could get an old school Ravens style matchup with much more physicality than we've seen lately. This is one of the best offensive lines the Steelers have had since maybe 2012, given that their division plays teams from the NFC East this season. Both these squads will have plenty of primetime games against teams like the Cowboys and the Eagles. But for me, nothing is exciting if you're a Steelers or Ravens fan than the hard-hitting Steeler-Ravens slobber knocker. And this is going to be an old school football game that we haven't seen in a while. This is my blast from the past game here. I think this is going to be a lot of fun and very low scoring. I'm talking like 10, maybe one of those 16-19, just an ugly score. I can't wait for it. And Crafty said the only thing that could be surprising about a Steelers-Ravens matchup would be a lack of surprises. I think Titans may be letting go of Henry at just the right time, like Seattle did with Wilson. And that is TBD, but great point. We will see. I know Rick agrees with that point. So next up, we have, what is this? The Eagles and Bengals. Oh, I got the Eagles and Bengals, and I'm going to do this one really quick. The Eagles were in the Super Bowl. Then they tried to get back to the Super Bowl. They couldn't. The Cincinnati Bengals 2 years ago go to the Super Bowl, play the Rams. They lose, can't get back to the Super Bowl. These are two teams that are looking to get back to the Super Bowl. These are two teams that have already paid their quarterback, meaning these are two teams that have already said, we have everything we need in this quarterback that gives us a chance to win a Super Bowl every single year. But the Eagles and the Bengals are going to be looking to prove that they're still a top team in their conference after last season. For Joe Burrow, it was an injury again, 2 of his 3 years, or 2 of his 4 years, I believe. No, 2 of his 3 years, because he had the injury his rookie year, went to the Super Bowl his second year, and then lost in the AFC Championship game his second. 2 of 4 then. 2 of 4. So is Joe Burrow going to be able to stay healthy? And if he does, then you like the Bengals' chances to get back to the Super Bowl. And with the Eagles, can they overcome the coaching that I mean, look at the draft the Cardinals just had. Clearly, they got a good coach over there. Look at the Indianapolis Colts, right? Great coaching. The Eagles did lose a ton of assets in those coaches, and now you're like, okay, well, the Eagles had a good draft. Are they going to be able to get back to that game? Eagles, Bengals, it's exciting to see. All right, now here are my honorable mention games that I did put here. I got the Patriots and the Bears. I think this is going to be a really sneaky good game. It didn't make any of the lists that I saw on all the websites, but simple as this. CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. How exciting was that, right? And it was actually the second pick that was right. Mostly everybody agreed Bryce Young was the better quarterback, and CJ Stroud lit it up. Absolutely lit it up. Go back and listen to what the people said. Oh, he's going to take some time. He's not going to come in and start right away. He's going to go through some growing pains. He breaks records. Offensive Player of the Year, almost an MVP as a rookie. Absolutely incredible. Is Drake May starting for the Patriots going to outplay Caleb Williams starting for the Bears? Because that game is going to be about which quarterback should have been drafted number 1. So honorable mention there. Can't wait for that game. And then I also have the Bears and the Cardinals, because you got Rome Odunze and you got Marvin Harrison Jr. 2 wide receivers trying to, some people said Rome Odunze is the safest. Some said Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best. but nobody has the upside of Malik Neighbors. I mean, you find all these creative ways, but the point is there were 3 wide receivers that deserved to be picked number 1. It was Marvin Harrison Jr. probably because of not just how well he was, but keep in mind, like when your father's Marvin Harrison, and it's a toss-up between 3, you're going to come out on top. And then you go to Rome Odunze out of Washington, Malik Neighbors out of LSU. Like LSU makes good receivers, a lot of them. Okay. So I think it just fell the way it fell for reasons that may be more obvious than people think. And Rome Odunze was just kind of the odd man out. But I think this is a great opportunity for him to have a 150-yard game, 2 touchdowns, and be like, I'm the guy that should have went number 1. So don't think that these players don't have that type of a chip on their shoulder. They're very well aware of these type of matchups. Drake May against Caleb Williams. I mean, they're going to be taught. They're going to be asked about it during the week in their press conferences, and it's going to be exciting. I think the NFL should do everything they can to try to put Bears Cardinals has Thursday Night Football written all over it. So just do that. And then I think the Patriots Bears game, that's got kind of like a Christmas time feel when maybe a Black Friday game. Let's get weird with that one and put it on Black Friday. But I think all these games are really exciting. And when you go down the list, you go, man, there is a ton of good football games coming our way in 2024. And I'm super excited. This is the best time of the year. Every team feels like they're ready to go fight. And, all of these, I think I have 12 different teams on these lists, but a lot of fun is coming. Black Friday. Oh my God. Crafty. All right. So I did want to go through this, but then I also wanted to give you some NFL news. Just some stuff that's been going on around the league right now. Number 1, when we talk about the 5th-year tracker, we have players that were chosen in the 2021 draft. They finished the 3rd regular season game, and now it's a time for a decision to be made on 5th-year options for the class of first rounders. All drafted rookies are given 4-year contracts to begin their career, and teams have the option to extend that pack for a 5th year with players selected in round 1. Former Raiders offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood is the only player of 32 round picks ineligible for a 5th-year option after Las Vegas released him before 2022. The 5th-year option window, of course, the Raiders were the one that fucked that up. The 5th-year option window for the class of 2021 opened January 8th, but May 2nd was the final day that they could go ahead and tag a player with a 5th-year option. So who didn't get tagged? Okay. Well, Trevor Lawrence was tagged. All right. That one is a no-brainer, and he's been tagged since the 29th of April. Here's one that's TBD. The Denver Broncos and Zach Wilson. And I'll put Dallas Cowboys and Trey Lance in that group as well. Bill said, came in late. Did they release a schedule? When is our game if they did the one at SoFi? No, the schedule release is going to happen later. That's going to be a whole event. This is just the opponents have already been released for every team, the home and away opponents. It's been released since January, actually. Now, when those games are going to happen, we won't know until the schedule release, which I believe was May 29th. Let me put it up real quick. All right. It's happening in May. So it's happening this month, and the NFL schedule release will be in May, but the league hasn't revealed an exact date yet. I think it's going to be coming up pretty soon. There was a lot of leaks that have been happening on the schedule, so maybe if the NFL just doesn't tell you when it's going to be released, honestly, we could be a couple weeks away from it. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think the NFL is going to try a different approach this year and just not say anything about it and then just release it. Because when you give somebody 3 weeks, every day it's like, are there any leaks? Are there any leaks? And, it ends up getting leaked, but out of sight, out of mind kind of is what I'm thinking here. But when we know something, you'll know something for sure. And all right, so Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, TBD. Kyle Pitts, yes. The Falcons announced they have exercised Kyle Pitts' option on April 29th. Jamar Chase, yes. The Bengals picked it up on April 24th. Jalen Waddle, yes. They are going to exercise his fifth-year option on April 29th. They did that. Penei Sewell was a yes. J.C. Horn, cornerback from the Panthers, yes. Patrick Surtain, yes. And it was picked up on my son's birthday. Just goes to show everything is connected. The Philadelphia Eagles, did they get to exercise their pick on Devontae Smith? Yes. And Smith's fifth-year option was picked up upon him signing a 3-year, $75 million extension with the Eagles April 15th. Pittsburgh Steelers, Justin Fields, no. The Steelers are not picking up the fifth-year option of Fields, who was drafted by the Bears and traded to Steelers this offseason. This was reported on May 2nd. So this is going to be interesting for Fields if he doesn't get to see the field this year. No pun intended. What is going to happen to him? Is he just going to be a backup? Or it's crazy, but if Caleb Williams wasn't Caleb Williams, would Justin Fields even be in this situation? I mean, it's funny. It's like when people say, to be a star in this league takes a little bit of luck. I think that's the kind of thing they're talking about, like being drafted with a good OC, being drafted into a team with good weapons. Somebody coming up in the draft and not having a player that they want to replace you with. And the fact that the Bears used the Panthers pick, it wasn't even their own pick that got him there. Justin Fields didn't play bad enough for the Bears to even be a number 1 overall pick. But this is the way the chips fell. So with the Steelers not picking up that fifth-year option, it does make Justin Fields' career path uncertain at this moment. The Dallas Cowboys are picking up Micah Parsons. They picked it up May 24th. The Cowboys picked up Parsons' fifth-year option on May 24th. That's supposed to say April 24th. May 24th hasn't happened yet. Gotta love these NFL writers. The Chargers picked up Rashawn Slater's fifth-year option on May 2nd, today. The Jets officially picked up Vera Tucker's fifth-year option, their guard that they drafted. The Steelers, or the Jags, TBD on Mac Jones. Arizona's not picking up Zevin Collins. The Cardinals announced April 30th that they had declined Collins' fifth-year option. Fields never sees the field, even when he's on it. Alex Leatherwood, the Raiders who originally drafted Leatherwood, cut him in August, making him ineligible for a fifth-year option. That's crazy, right? That's a first-round pick that you're just cutting. Leave it to the Raiders. The Miami Dolphins, Jaleen Phillips, yes. Jaleen Phillips is dealing with an injury that I believe it was Achilles, and he won't be able to come back until later in the fall, because that injury happened week 16. So he's definitely going to miss some time, but Dolphins still picking up that option for 2025. The Commanders, TBD on Jamin Davis. The Chiefs are TBD on Kadarius Toney. Bill knows who Kadarius Toney is. The Colts, yes, on Kwity Paye, the Indianapolis Colts defensive end. They decided to pick that up today. Tennessee Titans on Caleb Farley, TBD. The Vikings on Christian Darrisaw, their offensive tackle, yes. Pittsburgh Steelers on Najee Harris, no. This was an interesting one. Najee Harris, one of the voices in the locker room last year with everything going on with the terrible coaching and they were asking him, at some points, do you feel like your offense is predictable? And he said yes. Wasn't really calling out his coach, just being honest, but Najee Harris not really living up to the expectations, although he has shown glimpses of, a reason to be picked where he was. It just hasn't been consistent enough. So Najee Harris is definitely, this is a contract year for him with that 5th-year option not being picked up. What he does this year is going to really either get him paid next year or have him in the Ezekiel Elliott group way too early. Jacksonville Jaguars are going to pick up Travis Etienne, a running back that when they drafted, you might feel like Etienne hasn't played that much, but remember, they drafted him and he didn't play that whole year of Trevor Lawrence's first year. Last year, he was, I think, 2nd in touchdowns and had an amazing season. And the Jaguars picked it up officially on April 29th. I think that makes sense. The Cleveland Browns on Greg Newsome. Yes, the Browns exercised Newsome's option on April 30th. The Ravens have not made a decision on Rashad Bateman, the wide receiver. The New Orleans Saints are TBD on Peyton Turner, defensive end from the Saints. The Packers say no on Eric Stokes. That's their cornerback. They're declining the option. That was reported today. And we got a defensive end, Gregory Rousseau, yes, for Buffalo. For the Ravens, Odafe Uwa, outside linebacker. For the Ravens, yes, they officially picked it up. And last but not least, Joe Tyron Shionka, outside linebacker for Tampa Bay. And that is TB, not Tampa Bay, TBD, to be determined. So those are really, really important to know in the back of your head during the season. The fact that Najee Harris doesn't have that 5th-year option, that he is on a contract year. These are great things to have in the back of your mind. And we'll see how the players pan out this year. And Krebs said, I always wonder why Kyle mispronounces Achilles. Then I remembered that it's also a name. Everything's a name. Well, no, it's a word, not a name. I can't help but think if the Giants picked up the 5th-year option on DJ instead of doing that 4-year deal, how different we would look at the team right now. I know why they didn't, but looking back, it might have saved us some problems. Oh, yeah. You want to talk about if we could go back? You want to talk about hindsight being 2020? You know that I know and that we know what Russell Wilson in that contract, and what that's done to us. We can definitely sit around and drink some Blanton's. That one I can't say, Blanton's, because my dad collects it too. So there's a name I can say, right? So take that, Crafty. The Chiefs will run corn dog again in the Chiefs will run corn dog play again in Super Bowl LIX. Fresh off lending his 3 Super Bowl rings to the cause on Monday Night Raw, Mahomes had a prediction for how he might win his 4th. Having defeated the Eagles in the Super Bowl and 49ers in overtime last year with the help of near identical reverse motion plays, corn dog, Mahomes recently guaranteed Kansas City will return once again to the hot dog flavored on the game's biggest stage this season. That play was freaking sweet, Mahomes said of his winning pass to Mecole Hardman on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. It was not supposed to go to the guy that caught the touchdown. We ran the corn dog one against the Eagles. Touchdown, won the game. And then we were going to run a fake version of that, and we were going to do a little shuffle pass, and it was wide open. So next year in New Orleans, we're going to do it again. Put it on the table. We're going to do it again, telling you now. Predicted play call aside, saying the Chiefs will run anything during the upcoming season in New Orleans, the site of the Super Bowl, also means Mahomes just called that Kansas City will be escaping the AFC gauntlet again to be in position to accomplish the NFL's first ever three-peat I hope that all of this is not going to happen. Gosh, and it's not. I'm not just one of those people that, what I love about all this Taylor Swift stuff is now other people don't like the Chiefs. I don't really care about all that stuff. I don't get into it, but my hate for the Chief has to do with being a Broncos fan, and I'm just happy that I can now share this with the world. I'm glad that he is saying things like this. There's going to be a lot of people coming out and just being mean to the Chiefs, and quite frankly, that's what I'm here for. Nate Wiggins signed his contract. He becomes the first rounder from 2024 to sign his contract. Nate Wiggins, an awesome freaking cornerback out of Clemson, running a 4.28. He's got all the tools. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be joining Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, who fell in the draft 3 years ago out of Notre Dame, the best safety. This is going to be a really, really stellar defense. That's why I said that Steelers-Ravens game is going to be like a blast from the past, right? The Pats sign a new kicker, and then I'm just going to end it with a news roundup. The Ravens sign Roger Rosengarten, Nick Samak, TJ Tampa, 4th-round pick, okay? These are all of their draft picks, and Nate Wiggins. So the Ravens don't waste any time taking their players and getting their money. You got to love that from an organization. Hey, let's not dick around with this. These kids, they want their money. Let's give them some money. Let's do it right away. We talked about Eric Stokes' 5th-year option not being picked up by the Packers. DJ Chark, this is an interesting one. Agreed to terms on a 1-year contract worth up to $5 million for the Los Angeles Chargers. Another piece Jim Harbaugh is very quietly adding to this team. DJ Chark is a sneaky move here, and I think he's going to see some playing time. As far as that kicker news, Joey Sly signs with the New England Patriots. So a new kicker perhaps for the Patriots for this upcoming season. And wide receiver Drake Stoops was among 16 undrafted free agents signed by Los Angeles. So the Rams doing their homework, 16 undrafted signees by the Rams. Super excited to see all these undrafted players play in the preseason. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially since I've done my homework on all the ones for the Broncos. There's certain ones I predict are going to actually make the team. I'm excited to see if that actually happens. People like Blake Watson, running back out of Kentucky, I believe. I think Kentucky. I'm seeing blue. I'm pretty sure it's Kentucky. But Bill said we'll see this year, Crafty. New O-line coach, new O-line players to help might make him a bit less paranoid of losing his life back there. And Crafty says Daniel Jones, Blake Bortles 2.0 has one solid year, one deep playoff run, then gets a contract and falls off a cliff. Well, if there's anybody that can turn it around, you got the head coach to do it. All right. Like you said, new O-line coach. It sucks that Saquon Barkley's gone because one thing that I've noticed about the Giants players is that they always talked very highly of Daniel Jones. And now that some of those core pieces are gone, hopefully his newer teammates are going to kind of treat him that way. It's hard when all of the offseason, the Giants owner comes out and says he would support the Giants moving up and drafting a quarterback. Rich Eisen comes back from the combine saying that the top rumor was that the Giants are out on Daniel Jones, and now you got to win that locker room back in a way. You've lost. It's like you broke up with your girlfriend. You got on the dating market. You couldn't find anybody. There was no options, and now you're going back. And she's like, yeah, we can be back together. Okay, well, let's do it. Now, how is this going to go, though? Okay, can you buy the offensive lineman flowers, right? Can you take them on dates? You got the job back, but can you win our hearts back? Can you win the people of New York's hearts back, Daniel Jones? Or are you going to go out there and remind everybody why Shedeur Sanders is going to be the next New York Giant quarterback? A lot of stuff to work out in New York. I'm excited, though, as far as the Jets and the Giants go. Like, I think that New York football is going to be a lot of fun this offseason. And Bill, he doesn't feel pressure coming on his blind side. That's a big part of his issue. And Bill said, blindside isn't really a problem with Thomas as left tackle, one of the best. His processing reads just suck, and he's shell-shocked. Yeah. And speaking of, I know a lot about a quarterback. You know what a lot of it comes from, too, is not understanding the timing of an offense, right? Being able to diagnose coverages, make quick reads, but not just that, but quick decisions, and then have a quick release. What Brian Daboll did so well with Josh Allen was from year 1 to year 2, if you look at his time to throw, you look at Josh Allen's mechanics, like they were totally different, right? And that's what they said when they drafted Josh Allen. He's going to be a project. Well, he was a project, and it worked out. And that's why I say, like, if anybody's going to be able to get their hands, it's kind of how I felt about Russell Wilson having Sean Payton. You know, there's only so much you can do, but ultimately it's going to be up to Daniel Jones to make the quick decision to throw the football after 2 seconds, to not hesitate, to not hold on to the ball too long looking for a bigger play. Just take what the defense can give you. Does he have that maturity this year to give the Giants enough reason where not only will Giants fans be grateful that he played this year, but grateful because they didn't draft a new quarterback and restart the process with somebody that was their guy all along. If Daniel Jones wins the hearts and people and takes the Giants to the playoffs this year, best believe the Giants aren't going to be looking for a quarterback next year. If they were, then they wouldn't have given him a 4-year contract after Daniel Jones beat the Vikings in the playoffs. So Daniel Jones knows all he has to do is win football games and get back to a playoff spot in order to kind of secure this job a little bit longer. Will he do it, or is it going to be Tommy DeVito? And Bill said, Crafty hitting me in the feels by talking about my favorite quarterback, Tommy. And here I got making only Broncos into only Giants. Oh, man. Wait till you guys see. I'm working on this little tiny clip that we're going to hit at any point in an episode, and it stops everything, and it says, making it about the Broncos. And then Rick's going to have one about the Bears, and you can basically push the button anytime. And Bill, he's in here a lot. So, maybe, how some YouTube pages give off badges and awards for longest fans. Maybe instead we will build your favorite team a making it about the Giants, and we'll play it and then read your comment and stop the show that way. So I think it'll be fun moving forward. But that was our Thursday night episode today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, talking about all of the good games coming up. Real quick, I'll fly through them in case you missed it. We had the Broncos and Steelers, Russell Wilson returning. Broncos and Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett, Denver Broncos. What more to say? Packers, Bears, and the Packers owning that rivalry for several decades now with Caleb Williams. It's a brand new book. 49ers, Chiefs, Super Bowl rematch. Lions, 49ers, NFC Championship rematch. Lions, Texans. Houston, to me, I skipped this one in accident because Houston, to me, is the 2023 version of the Lions. So I almost feel like these two teams have a lot in common. I'm excited to see. Vikings, Falcons, Kirk Cousins going back to play his old team. Eagles, Packers, where Jordan Love got his first start and ultimately won he played well enough in that game to secure the starting job. Now they're going to play 2 NFC teams that are competing for a Super Bowl. Ravens, Eagles. Haven't seen it since 2016. Bills, Texans, Stephon Diggs rematch. Chargers, Ravens. The Harbaugh brothers playing each other. 49ers, Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan. Steelers, Ravens, old school matchup. Derrick Henry, new offensive line for the Steelers. Eagles, Bengals, both teams looking to get back to the Super Bowl. Patriots, Bears, Drake May versus Caleb Williams. And Bears, Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze. You guys can follow me on NFL with Kyle on X. And you can follow my partner Rick at And Now Rick. And yeah, please like this video if you guys enjoyed it. Go ahead and comment. I know for a fact that I missed some important game to some fan out there. Don't let me not know what it is. Put it in the comments. Let me know what game I missed, what game you're excited to watch next year. There's a ton that I'm missing. I'd have to go through all the players drafted. There's going to be a lot of great matchups. So I know for a fact that I missed it. Let me know what it is in the comments, and definitely stay tuned. I did just get new interviewees to interview. So I found a Patriot fan, I found a Rams fan, and a Ravens fan. I got these interviews being lined up, but they're going to take place on my personal YouTube channel. And you can see that right here where it says Kyle and then UT. That's YouTube, and that's my YouTube channel, Kyle Kitzman, KYLE KITZMAN. That's where you'll find all of that stuff. And of course, if you're following me on Twitter, then you'll get the updates before those go live anyway. Bill, I know you got your vacation in Palm Springs. I hope you have fun. Crafty, I hope you have a beautiful night. As always, thank you guys for being in here and making this place a family. And I can't wait to see you guys on the next one.